Bueno, pues bienvenidos aquí a la Biblioteca de Vida de Barrieta en esta sesión especial con una autora estupenda, la maestra de la novela negra, así es como se la define a menudo en muchas de las reseñas que habréis leído sobre Donna Leon, la creadora de la saga protagonizada por el personaje del comisario veneciano Guido Brunetti, que hoy está aquí en la biblioteca para presentarnos una nueva entrega de esta serie titulada La tentación del perdón. Vamos a hablar con ella de este libro y de otras muchas cosas, pero después, al final de esta charla, se abrirá un turno de preguntas en el que vais a poder participar sin ningún problema, que no os corte ni os inhiba el sistema de traducción, porque eso no tiene que ser un problema. A ella le van a llegar las preguntas en inglés y, bueno, si hay alguien que habla muy bien inglés y quiere plantearle alguna pregunta en este idioma, también lo puede hacer. Así que, dicho esto, vamos a saludar a Donna. Donna, hello, welcome. Congratulations for your new book.
Thank you.
And, bueno, vamos a hablar contigo de esta novela. A mí me gustaría empezar preguntándote si después de tantas entregas, ¿cómo consigues mantener la intriga? ¿Cómo consigues seguir ideando nuevas tramas, nuevas intrigas? Y si te ayuda mucho a abordar los problemas que nos ocurren actualmente. Si te ayuda mucho lo contemporáneo, lo que sucede al mismo tiempo que escribes.
Yeah, I live in I lived in a society that is, I don't want to say criminal, but that is more accustomed to dishonesty than is my own Anglo-Saxon culture. Obvious dishonesty. And so, because I am a foreigner in that culture, I see things that they don't see. And this gives me a kind of advantage to write about Italians with familiarity, and I like to think with love, but also to point to the things that they don't notice, that we as foreigners do notice. Let me give you an example. The mayor before the current mayor, Brugnaro, Giorgio Orsoni, was mixed up somehow in the scandal of the Mose tidal barriers. Those are the things that were supposed to go zzz, when the Acqua Alta came zzz, zzz, and save the city. A complete lie from the beginning. Orsoni was accused some years ago, after he was elected mayor, of having taken money from Mose, from these people. He was accused of having accepted 135,000 euros from them. And he denied it, he denied it, he denied it, he denied it. And finally, when the evidence became overwhelming, Mayor Orsoni did admit that he had, in fact, taken 135,000 euros from Mose, useless, non-functional, polluting, destructive Mose. But, he said, I didn't do anything wrong because I didn't keep the money. I gave it to my election campaign. And this passed in the Italian press and among my friends without comment, because this was normal. And it is normal to view this really not as dishonesty, because he didn't take it and put it in his pocket. So he didn't buy a Ferrari with the money. He bought the city, he bought the election, but that's okay. And so, as a foreigner with my Anglo-Saxon vision, I see these things and I mention them. And because of this, I have I think I have a tremendous advantage. Information comes to me primarily from Il Gazzettino, the newspaper, the local newspaper, which is wonderful, and from gossip, which is just heaven. I love gossip. Everybody loves gossip.
Sí, hombre,
Yeah.
I love. Bueno, cada entrega es una nueva oportunidad de conocer bueno, pues una nueva trama policial en torno a este comisario tan encantador, pero también es una oportunidad de, como lector, meternos en una ciudad como Venecia al margen del cliché turístico. Y tú esos márgenes, Donna, los conoces muy bien. ¿Cómo es Venecia al margen de ese arquetipo que tenemos nosotros, que no hemos vivido allí y que no conocemos los aspectos más costumbristas de una ciudad tan majestuosa?
The real life of Venice is like your real life. People get up in the morning, they have a coffee, they have a brioche, they complain about having to go to work, they go to work, they come home and have lunch, they go back to work, they finish work, they come home, they have dinner, they watch television, they go to sleep. Life in Venice is just like life in any other small provincial city. But because the city is so overwhelmingly beautiful, what we do is assume that because people are living in an aesthetic paradise, there has to be something special about them or their lives. There isn't. They are as normal as we are, except that they're being normal in a place that is abnormally beautiful. And so things that happen in Venice are the same things that happen here, the same things that happen in Athens and happen in Birmingham. Life isn't different. Life doesn't change, except that when they're going home from work, maybe they pass through Piazza San Marco and they see the Basilica, or they walk over the Accademia Bridge to get home from work. And they just take that as normal. So there's no secret about it. But this works to my advantage in terms of the books, because I think what we do is find a conflict between this outrageous beauty of the place and bad things. Just as we're always surprised when beautiful people do bad things, we're surprised when bad things happen in a beautiful place. And they do, but not many. Far more happen in my books than happen in the city. I've killed more people in the books than killers have killed in Venice in 50 years. I've been very busy.
Sin embargo, Paola, la mujer de Brunetti, se queja de que en Venecia es muy difícil encontrar una cremallera, ¿no? Algo tan sencillo, ¿no?
Yeah. But think about the numbers, these distorted numbers. The last time I looked at the window of the Farmacia Morelli, which is in Campo San Bartolomeo, on the San Marco side of the Rialto Bridge. It's over there on the left. They have a machine in the window that tells you how many people are registered as residents of the city of Venice. So if someone goes in and cancels his residence in Venice, the Morelli number goes down 1. If a baby is born in Venice, the number goes up 1. The last time I looked, there were 54,996 residents in Venice. And the last time I checked, there were 30 million tourists. So think about buttons.
Wow.
Okay? Think about buttons. How many buttons in 1 year do 54,996 people need to buy? Maybe 56,900. But tourists don't go somewhere and buy buttons. So what has happened, and I use this as a metonym for what is happening, the economy of the city is, as we say in American, it's all screwed up, because usually a city exists to serve the public, to serve the citizens of the city. The economy of Venice is so completely distorted that it no longer thinks about the residents of the city, because they don't need a plastic gondola. They don't need one of those hats. They don't need Chinese-made Murano glass, little figurines or big figurines, or they don't need chandeliers. So the things, the economy of the city now serves the needs of the 30 million and forgets about the 55,000. And this is one of the reasons that I think about buttons. Because if I don't need a chandelier, but I might need a button someday. But there aren't any places that sell them anymore.
Donna, ¿cómo encontró usted a Brunetti? Y no sé si cuando lo encontró o empezó con él, supo que iba a ser una persona un icono tan importante en su carrera como novelista. ¿O surgió todo de una manera más natural?
No, it was a joke. The whole thing was a joke. I was in the dressing room at Teatro La Fenice with a friend of mine, Gabriele Ferro, a conductor, Sicilian conductor, with his Sicilian wife. And we were talking during the interval in a rehearsal of an opera by Donizetti. We were talking about another conductor whom Gabriele and Gea didn't like. So there was an escalation, and we started thinking about. And I thought, wow, what a great idea for a murder mystery. Maybe? No. I wonder if I could write a murder mystery. I had never thought about it before. This was 1990-something. So I started thinking about it, and I said, let me see if I could write a murder mystery. So I wrote a murder mystery. It took about a year, and then I put it away because I wanted to see if I could write it, and I could. So I had done what I wanted to do, but someone said, Donna, you wrote the book. Why don't you try to sell the book? Oh, what a good idea. So I sent it to a contest in Japan, and it won, and then I had a contract from the United States for 2 books, so I had to write another book. And then I had a contract for 2 more books, so I had to write 3 and 4. But it was nothing that I ever wanted. It was nothing I ever thought about. It was completely accidental. And I think this is why that I am so obviously very cavalier about the whole thing. To me, it's just a joke. I won the lottery. It's no different from winning the lottery. What's that down on the ground? Wow, I won. Ooh, yay.
Y ahí nació, y así empezó todo, una larga historia. No sé si de amor con Brunetti o si también a veces Donna Leon tiene crisis con este personaje y le dan ganas de enterrarlo.
No, I don't have time for crises. I'm too busy.
Bueno, Brunetti, en cualquier caso, es un comisario que no sé si existirán realmente muchos comisarios como él, ¿no? Un tipo, pues bueno, con sensibilidad, con gusto por las cosas bonitas, que lee la Orestiada, que comparte una vida doméstica muy cálida, ¿no? Que tiene un concepto de la profesión de policía, pues la tiene un concepto muy alto, tiene un instinto, tiene una finura, ¿no? Que lo hace, bueno, lo hace así, especial. Y imagino que no habrá conocido Donna a comisarios como Brunetti. Hay mucha ficción, ¿no?, en la construcción de este personaje.
No. Actually, I think that what has happened is that a great deception has been practiced by the writers of crime novels, because they have, many of them, perhaps even most of them, have invented this sort of loser type. You think of go back to Raymond Chandler and Hammett. They're all the classic protagonist, I won't say hero, but the classic protagonist of many, not all, many crime novels is a man who is not part of the society. He doesn't have a lover, man or woman. He doesn't have a wife or a husband. He doesn't have a family, or if he does, it is completely dysfunctional. If he has a child, it's like Wallander's daughter. They're always back and forth about how much they don't like one another. You don't want to think about what they eat, and you don't want to think about how they dress. Now, these are not normal people. These are not average people, but we as a reading public have bought this idea of the investigator. I think that this is true of the fictional characters in crime novels, but my experience suggests to me that it has nothing to do with real police people, because I've met, not a lot, I've met a number of Italian police commissioners, and for one thing, they are all much better dressed than the ones in the books. And they eat better, and they don't have the social problems that they have. And they have better haircuts, because they're Italian. There's just so, I find these guys so, I do the test of who do I want to go to dinner with and spend an evening in conversation with. I would like to go to dinner with Brunetti, and I would like to sit and talk to him for an evening, chatting about this and about that, the problems of Venice maybe, although most people don't want to talk about that anymore. Talk about books, talk about music, talk about history, not talk about finding bodies and how bullets, what they do when they go in, how big the hole is. And not be obsessive about death. This is what disturbs me about these characters in novels. That, and I thought of this is the second, the third time I've talked about this, because the idea came to me when I was talking in this series of travels and talking to people here in Spain. It occurred to me that one thing that distinguishes Brunetti is the fact that he is interested in life. He loves life. He loves good food, he loves good wine, he loves beautiful things, he loves having a new cashmere jacket. He loves having a beautifully handmade suit. To him, it's joy to have a beautiful suit. As it is, I think, to any civilized person. When you put on a civilized, custom-made, ooh, it just feels so good. Whereas many of these other detectives, the detectives in the books, are in love with death, or they spend their lives thinking and talking and living about death. And I don't want any part of that, because I'd be so bored. I would just be bored out of my mind with what these people occupy themselves with. How very, very uninteresting that is. And at least Brunetti's conversations, what he reads, is certainly, at least to me, is interesting. He's an interesting person. And here I'm not talking about literary quality or whether you like him or whether you share his interest, but at least he thinks about things. And he has an inner life. And many of these other detectives might have an inner life, but we don't know that. No, I find it, I find so many of them very, very creepy. A great American word, creepy. The kind of person whose hand you don't want to, you shake and you wipe your hand because they're creepy. Like Donald Trump, they're creepy. Did you say that?
Ay, qué miedo. Bueno,
So is Donald Trump.
Como Trump. Está claro que a Brunetti se le coge cariño enseguida, eso sí es verdad, se le coge mucho cariño, pero también al microcosmos que tiene alrededor, a esos personajes que van pululando por las páginas de sus novelas, ¿no? Bueno, por supuesto a su mujer, Paola, la casa donde vive. No sé, a mí me da mucho gusto entrar en esa casa. Cada vez que abre la puerta, no sé, te dan ganas de tumbarte en ese sofá, compartir esas charlas que tiene con su mujer, pero también están sus hijos, las problemáticas que surgen en una familia común, los forenses, los policías, los jefes insufribles, todo ese universo, ¿no? Ese microcosmos. ¿Qué le divierte más a Donna León cuando escribe? ¿Idear las tramas puramente criminales o construir ese universo que está tan pegado a Brunetti y que tanto engancha al lector?
Okay, I will confess. What I like to do is make the jokes. I like to write the funny bits in the books. And the tragedy is that these are the things that very often cannot be translated. Very often when I write something that to an English person would be laugh out loud funny, because English people have told me this. They are scenes that cannot be translated because the references are not familiar to anyone except English people. Those are the things that I remember. One is the description in an early book when a different person was the Prime Minister of Italy. I won't use his name. He was Prime Minister for a long time. Paola is talking about him, and she says to Brunetti, "Oh, that's like something that Hobbes would do." Hobbes? Who the hell is Hobbes? So the narrator says, in recent years, Paola had taken to referring to the current head of government as Hobbes, in homage to Thomas Hobbes, the British political philosopher's description of human life. Nasty, brutish, and short. Huh? Because we think usually short is this, but Hobbes meant that human life is short in time, but Paola thought that the then vice president, the then chief minister of Italy was nasty, brutish, and short. And he's never named. But I still, 20 years later, that still makes me laugh. And 20 years later, he's still around.
Claro, claro.
And he's still nasty, brutish, and short. Shorter. But he has more hair. Have you noticed that? As he gets shorter, his hair's growing. It moves forward like the tide. Every year, there's another half centimeter. Caro.
Bueno, no hay que olvidar que también en los libros de Donna León hay cosas durísimas, ¿no? No sé si usted coincide con Agatha Christie en el mal concepto que tenía ella de la naturaleza humana.
Agatha Christie? Really? She had a bad concept of human nature? Yeah, I have a pretty bad. I do have a pretty. But I also have a good concept of human nature. I think it's silly to think that humans are all bad or all good. We're salt and pepper. We're a mixture of things. And I think that individuals are a mixture. Sometimes we're good and sometimes we're less good. It depends on the circumstances. Put us in the situation, or put us in certain situations, and those of us who say, "Oh, I'd never, ever, I would never do that." but we'll do it if we're in the in the wrong circumstances. So I think that human nature is there to be written about. Good, bad, indifferent.
Moverse, tener inquietud, vivir en distintas ciudades, diferentes continentes, te da una perspectiva más certera de la condición humana. ¿Eso te ayuda o no tiene por qué? ¿Te ayuda a conocer mejor al ser humano? Tener ese espíritu como el que usted tiene, del movimiento, de residir en diferentes lugares. Hay gente que bueno, pasa una vida entera arraigada a una misma ciudad y no tiene ninguna necesidad. ¿Cree que ese rasgo le hace ver el mundo de una manera especial?
No. I think it's Lucretius who says somewhere, he says that the person who thinks that he will change himself by moving to a new place is sadly mistaken, because the first thing he packs is himself. And if you think about that, it's true, but many people do think that by changing their job, changing their wife, changing their husband, changing this, changing that, getting a new nose, their life will change. Mm-hmm. But the self that they take to a different place is the same self. And I think that people, by having different experiences, don't necessarily become more perceptive about human nature. I think people who pay attention to human nature and who are interested in human nature and interested in figuring out or learning why people do things, they can stay home. Look at Jane Austen, for God's sake, look at Jane Austen. Look at Emily Dickinson. These are two women writers, one British, one American. Emily Dickinson, for much of her life, never left her family home. And yet, as a poet, as an American poet, but as a poet, she is brilliant in what she says about human beings and about the world and about spirituality. Jane Austen lived with her parents in the family vicarage and very often just sat home and participated in family conversation. And yet she is one of the most brilliant exposers of human nature. Nobody understands people as well as Jane Austen. No, few people understand human nature as well as Jane Austen does, and most of them are writers. But they weren't pirates. They weren't, I don't know, they weren't adventurers. They lived very normal, prosaic lives, and yet they paid attention to the life around them and the people around them, and they turned that into gold. So the business of moving around, I always find that ridiculous, that people think that by having new experiences, going off to Tashkent is going to make you a writer. No. Paying attention will make you a writer. I think. I could be wrong.
Y ahora mismo, ¿cómo es la vida de Donna León en cuanto a itinerancia? ¿Pasa mucho más tiempo ahora en Venecia o mucho menos? ¿Hay mucho cambio de residencia? ¿O es un secreto? Igual es un secreto.
No. There aren't any secrets in my life. It's the numbers. Think about the numbers again. 54,996 and 30 million. How many of you have ever been on Oxford Street in London on Christmas Eve? Huh? That is what Venice is like, at least on the weekends, in a kind of expanding blob of time. For long periods of time, particularly between April, March, and November. March and November. For 9 months of the year, the city is pretty unpleasant because it's crowded all the time. All the time. It's like Las Ramblas. And that's another victim of the same phenomenon. and for the same reasons. And so I spend maybe a week in the city. Yeah, every month I go down for a week because there are many people I know and many people I love in the city, and I like to see them. But I don't want to. I don't want to be there to because because we're animals. That's why we're animals, and I feel that my habitat has been invaded. My habitat, my quiet little nest in the little patch of forest where my nest was, that's been invaded. And like an animal, I get nervous, and I don't like it. So I haven't hit anyone yet, but I do it only if there are backpacks. If people are walking with big backpacks, I have decided that I have the right to take their backpack. I don't touch them. I touch their backpack and I move them. I move them out of my way. That's okay. But I've never laid a hand on a tourist. Yet. One likes to live in hope. Yeah. But I have been knocked down twice by tourists, by crowds of people, both times on the Rialto Bridge. But I couldn't fall because I was trapped. I was like I was a pencil in a pencil box. The whole box would have to fall over. I was stopped by human bodies, and they went, oh.
Donna, ¿se puede salvar Venecia antes de que sea demasiado?
It can't be saved. It can't be saved. It can't be saved.
¿No?
No.
Ni del turismo, ni de las mareas altas, de nada.
No.
¿Cuál es el destino de esta ciudad?
No.
De la que tanto se habla siempre.
It can't be saved. It can't be saved. I think that it can't be saved because the people who run the city don't want to save it. They want to make money. Vogliono ciapparsche. For those of you who speak Veneziano, they want to get money. Every 6 months or so, there's an article in the international press. I'm sick and tired of reading it, but it comes, I don't know, like an infection. Every 6 months. The cruise ships are to be banned from Venice. The Guardian, the New York Times. The cruise ships, the Frankfurter Allgemeine, verboten. Not from my window. Maybe I have hallucinations when I look out the window and I see the big sea of the coast. Some Saturdays there are 6 of them coming in and 6 going out. And then 6, and then you see the headline. Cruise ships. They're not going to stop. No.
Y entonces, si no se puede salvar Venecia, ¿qué va a ocurrir? ¿Cómo va a terminar todo esto?
Let me tell you about Mose, huh? Mose? Remember our friend Mose? Uh-oh. This system of metal rectangles, some of them almost the size of the bottom part of this room, maybe to here, all right? They're enormous. The theory is you have a big tube, a big pipe going in here, and this is a rectangle. Let me make it a rectangle. Sorry. It's a rectangle. And what it's supposed to do, it's on the bottom of the laguna between the 2 pieces of land. So Acqua Alta's coming. So it's filled with water, with seawater. So air goes in here, the opening here from the tube, and the water goes out. And when the water is all out, and there's only air in here, it will rise up and block the sea from coming into the city. And then when the tide goes down, the water comes back in, the air goes out, and it sinks back down to the bottom of the laguna. Huh? The unfortunate thing is that the technology is more than 30 years old. The other unfortunate thing is that it seems that the designers of the tubes, where here there has to be a valve, and there has to be una guarnizione. I don't know what it is in Spanish. It's a rubber. There has to be a rubber seal here, all right? A gasket in English. So when the water or the air goes in, it goes in. It doesn't all leak out. Well, it seems that nobody told the engineers that the Laguna of Venice is salt water. Did you know that the Adriatic Sea and the Mediterranean are salt water? Huh? Believe me, they are. I know it's hard to believe. They are salt water. Oceans are salt water. Now, you don't want to believe me, do you? Neither did the engineers. And so, all of these things, there was an article in the Gazzettino 3 days ago about these enormous rubber metal sealers. They are covered with 1 centimeter thick stuff, incrustations of something, all right? That's not me, that's my is it my pacemaker?
Okay. Sorry, it's mine.
And so we begin to see what all of this Mose thing might be about. The project cost, they think, 7 billion euros. Not million, billion. 7,000 million euros. Let me say that again. 7,000 million euros. All right? Now, the sealers don't work, and these things are painted in zinc paint, which comes off because the water, I know, please try to believe me, the salt water, right? But trust me, it's salt water in the oceans, okay? The earth is also round, okay? Can you believe that too? So this is coming off and is polluting the laguna and killing the fish and adding to the poisons that the fish already eat in the laguna. This is Mose, designed by Venetians, constructed by Venetians, constructed. I'll just tell you one thing about the company. Consorzio Venezia, Consorzio Venezia, started by Ingegneri Mazzacurati. The first thing they did was get a contract which said that Consorzio Venezia would be, I forget how many men were on the board, I think 14. They were all arrested 2 years ago. These men could give out contracts without bothering ever to get a bid. Nobody had to bid on the contracts. Consorzio Venezia could just give the contracts to anyone they wanted. No competition. And they did that for 30 years. And so this whole thing seems not to work. And they don't know what they think as well, that perhaps if it goes up, it might not come down. They might not be able to get it down. But it costs, they estimate now that this system will cost 100 million euros a year to maintain. So now we get to what their purpose was, because once it was built, there was no more billions coming in. But 100 million a year just to keep it clean, that's not bad, is it? Ah, nice. So that's why I have no faith. Because this was Venetians. This was Venetians who did this.
Así que va a hacer falta mucho turista para poder cubrir todos esos gastos.
You can't blame the tourists for this one.
Claro, no, pero que la llegada de dinero a la ciudad es necesaria para poder mantener ciertas dinámicas corruptas, ¿no? Que entre dinero, a eso me refiero. Una pequeña parte, porque eso es mucho dinero.
So they will always come in. And you read about the turnstile thing on Made. Stop it. All they did was redirect traffic. It didn't stop any single person from going into Venice, because that's not the purpose. They don't want to stop people from going into Venice. They want to look like they want to stop people going into Venice. It's different. It's different. They went this way. It took them 35 minutes to get to San Marco, or it took them 25 minutes to get to San Marco, or it took them 30 minutes to get to San Marco. There were 3 ways that they can go. But nobody got stopped. So don't believe them, and don't believe the cruise ships. The thing about the it's not going to happen. Not in my lifetime. Want to hear any of the good news?
Sí, por favor.
No, the good news. The good news is that it's still the most beautiful place I've ever been, or the most beautiful place that most of us have ever been. It's the most beautiful city. I think it's the most beautiful city in the world. It's magic. Incantevole. But, and I think it makes people feel good to be surrounded by this beauty. I think beauty always makes us feel good. That's why we love art, because it makes us feel good.
Desde luego. Bueno, yo creo que, si te parece, Donna, podemos abrir un turno de preguntas. Que la gente que hoy te ha venido a escuchar tenga la oportunidad también de hacerte alguna pregunta o alguna reflexión.
Or complaints.
Bueno, pues nada, si alguien se atreve a romper el hielo, adelante.
Ok.
Hola, muchas gracias por la conversación tan interesante. Solo quería preguntarte si te has planteado alguna vez cambiar de personaje o de lugar, otro comisario en otra ciudad, o si el entorno es el adecuado y el personaje es el adecuado para siempre.
No, it's not so much that it's the right universe, it's the only universe. It's the only place. I went off to university when I was, 18. And since that time, with the exception of 4 years when I lived in Iran, I have lived only in Venice. And so it's the only place I can write about, because it's the only place where I know there you turn left and there you turn right. And that's where you get good cheese, and that's where you find a button, or used to be able to find a button. It's my ignorance of other places that makes me have to write about Venice. I did write a book about a musicologist. It wasn't a crime story. It was a crime story, but it wasn't a violent crime story. Nobody gets killed. But it was set in Venice, because I could not, and I cannot write about any place else. I would love to write a book set in Naples. I would love to take Brunetti to Naples for a week, or just for a weekend on business, on crime business. But to do that honestly, I would have to go and live in Naples until I felt I had some sense of. But that takes months, that takes years to get the. First you have to speak the language. And I understand some Neapolitan, but that much. If people speak Italian, I know what they're saying, but they lapse into Neapolitan, and I don't know which are the verbs and which are the nouns. So my ignorance keeps me in Venice. And I don't want to write about anybody else, because I've invested a lot of time in understanding Brunetti, and I feel I feel comfortable writing about him, because I sort of understand how he'll react and what he'll do. Sort of understand. Almost understand. Another question?
Hola, he sido turista de Venecia 2 veces y bueno, pues vuelvo ahora en junio otra vez y no quiero ser una turista. ¿Qué me aconsejas? Vuelvo otra vez, me encanta Venecia, siempre que puedo voy, entonces ahora voy a ir con mi hijo y sí que me gustaría que me aconsejaras para no ser la clásica turista, perderme por Venecia. He leído tus novelas que me encantan. Y me gustaría perderme por Venecia pues como una veneciana. Entonces, ¿es posible?
Yeah, sure.
Vale, y bueno, ¿por dónde voy a empezar? Porque claro, todo lo típico lo he visto, pero quiero perderme por esa Venecia de Brunetti. ¿Qué me aconsejas?
Then I would advise you to go to places...
Y siento ser una turista.
No, as a tourist.
Una más de las que van a ir ahí.
But you could be Venetian, easily, with blonde hair like that. You could be a Venetian, because many Venetian women have blonde hair. I would advise you to go down to Castello, or to go over to Angelo Raffaele, near San Basilio. Go to the places where people don't want to go, because many of these places have beautiful churches where you don't have to pay to go in. San Niccolò dei Mendicanti is one over in near San Basilio. You just go out to the Zattere, turn right, and go all the way to the end of the Zattere, and then move back in and get lost. Getting lost is the best thing. Venetians don't get lost, but I still get lost in some parts of the city. Castello always loses me, or I lose myself in Castello.
La última vez que estuve, nos perdimos. Nos perdimos por Venecia.
Good.
Nos perdimos. Pero sí, así. Y voy a intentar volver a perderme otra vez por Venecia, que eso es lo interesante.
Yeah, try and get lost. Because it's a time in your life when you don't have to go to the office, you don't have to go to work, you're free. So if you get lost, you're lucky. Because it's an experience that very few people have anymore in Venice. Tourists don't get lost anymore because they remain in the Bermuda Triangle of Accademia, Rialto, San Marco. But I think those are the places to avoid, because it's like that. June, huh? Or become a vampire and go out at night, because the city is much more beautiful in the dark. How old is your son? How old is your boy? You have a 23-year-old son? You have a 23-year-old son? Oh, I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Sí, tengo un hijo de 23, aunque no lo parezca. Cuando él tenía 7 años estuvo y me dijo, quiero volver. Volvimos con 15, 16 años y ahora volvemos otra vez con 23. Y él tiene algún amigo veneciano. Entonces vamos a quedar con un adolescente veneciano. Bueno, un adolescente joven veneciano.
Good.
Sí, que yo no conozco y que, bueno, que voy de madre, que me dejarán por ahí, pero sí.
No, but if you're the mother, you're sacred. You're a saint, because you're la mamma.
La mamma. Otra pregunta. Vamos con otra pregunta.
Buenas tardes, gracias. Yo siempre me he preguntado por el personaje de Paola. Es perfecta, es inteligente, culta, buena docente, hermosa, tiene tiempo para comprar lo más fresco, lo último que llega, para guisar, para leer a Henry James, para... Encima es heredera, Y yo digo, ¿dónde quedamos las mujeres normales?
Dice que si no te da un poquito de envidia.
Yeah, but she is an ordinary woman. She is an ordinary woman. I often am asked about Paola, and the question is, how can a university professor find the time to come home and cook lunch and cook dinner, most days. And my response is always that the answer is an adjective. She is a professor in an Italian university. And so she teaches 3 hours a week, 4 hours a week, maybe. maybe 6, but no more. She can discourage her students from coming to talk to her in her office. She posts her office hours, but she says that they really shouldn't bother coming. And so she has lots of free time. But more importantly, and I think the Spanish, of all people, can understand this more than, say, the Germans or the Norwegians. For a woman to cook is to show her love. She shows her love for her family by cooking for them. And this doesn't suggest slavery or involuntary servitude or a husband with a whip in the kitchen. She wants to feed her family. And so when Paula comes home and spends the amount of time it takes her to cook a meal, it's because she wants to do that, because it allows her to be creative, and it allows her to make manifest the fact that food is love. And only Latin people understand this. When I try to explain this to people in the North, they're confused by this idea, by this possibility, by this strange tribal behavior. Paula is a terrible snob. She's an intellectual snob, and she's a terrible intellectual snob, and she is, to a certain degree, she's the daughter of Conte Falier. And I think that it is difficult to grow up in a society like that and not take on a certain manner and a certain assumption of superiority. And I see that in Paula, that she believes that all pigs are equal, but some pigs are more equal than others. And she is definitely one of those other pigs. She's a character that I have. She's very funny and she's very bright, but I don't think she's not an easy person to live with. She's not an easy person for me to live with. Yeah. But she's very, very clever, and she can be very, very funny. So I have to keep her.
Qué bueno. Allá al fondo hay una chica que quiere preguntar algo también. Sí, te vemos. Ahora te pasan el micrófono. Allí, bueno, no sé, igual me estoy colando, ¿eh? A lo mejor estaba ahí antes.
I'm actually American.
I could have told.
I want to thank you, first of all, for writing the books, because I have become one of those 30 million tourists. But also been able to go to Burano and Murano and enjoy them because of your love of this city. But my question is, have you ever considered, I'm an audio reader, reading your own books?
No, I don't have the time.
Okay. I've enjoyed authors that have read their own books. Somehow they have enthusiasm, and it's been fun to listen to them read them. So
but
I just wondered.
if you're not a professional, because I have friends who have read books.
Yes.
If you're not a professional, it takes forever, because you make mistakes, and it's not your profession. And so I would never embark on a project like that, because I don't have the time. Was it someone here who had a question?
Y aquí también, este caballero. Luego, después.
Hola, buenas tardes. Quería saber si en la serie del comisario Brunetti tú estás de acuerdo con lo que presentan en esa serie los personajes, cómo presentan la ciudad. Vamos, yo he visto la serie, me parece que son 20 capítulos, y entonces, claro, en la primera parte pues, hay un actor, en la segunda parte otro actor, y los caracteres que presentan a veces me parece que no se parecen mucho a los libros que tú has escrito, al de los libros. No sé cómo lo ves.
I don't think the television series in any way reflects the books.
Sí, eso me
I've
parece
seen
que-
two, and usually when I go to the opera, I have a slogan. Let me teach you my slogan. It's an aesthetic, artistic slogan. If I go to a bad performance of an opera, I stay for the first act, and if I don't care about the stage production because that doesn't interest me, but if the voices are bad, and they're bad because they're bad voices, not because they're having a bad night. You can tell if you've listened to enough singers, you know that this is a bad singer or this is a good singer who's having difficulty. When there are bad singers, my motto is, okay, I paid for the ticket to go to the opera, but my question is, why pay twice? Why pay for the ticket and then pay by having to listen to 3 hours of bad singing? Go home. Go home. All right, do the comparison. In a restaurant, you're served something that tastes awful. Are you going to eat that because you have to pay for it? Go home. Why pay twice? And so with the films, I saw 2 of them, and I didn't like them. So I don't pay anymore. I don't see them anymore because I don't want to waste my time that way. I don't have the time. And also they are very charming. Buongiorno, vice questore. And the costumes, the costumes. They are meant to be Italians, the people in those films. Can you imagine an Italian dressing like some of them? An Italian?
Le toca a ese señor preguntar, sí.
Or accepting a haircut like some of them? Jawohl?
¿Se me
Bitte?
oye? Así, ¿no? Bueno, ¿se me oye?
Se te oye perfectamente.
Bueno, vamos a ver. Buenas tardes, lo primero. Y yo quisiera recoger el sentir de los que aquí estamos para felicitar a Donna León, porque ha escogido el oficio de escribir, que es fascinante, y lo ha desarrollado en un marco que es súper fascinante, como es Venecia. Yo no sé exactamente dónde ha nacido, pero creo que es adoptiva total de Venecia. Y que tenga mucha suerte porque todavía tiene cuerda para rato. Y esperamos, en fin, verla de nuevo o decirnos dónde va, para si podemos trasladarnos. Y me ha despertado la señora esta que está en la primera fila, que desde luego se ha declarado forofa de Venecia, pero bueno, le digo que tiene mucha competencia, porque forofos de Venecia somos todos. Pero como quiere volver, yo no es que conozco a tope Venecia, pero lo conozco bastante. Y le voy a hacer unas recomendaciones, que se sitúe en Mestre, que es la parte continental de Venecia, y que vaya a pie, siempre a pie, o en góndola. Atraviesa el puente y al principio de la ciudad tiene a la izquierda el barrio judío, que mucha gente no lo visita. Y es, nos podrá ampliar algún dato, allí todavía se ven las coladas tendidas por las ventanas y la vida real de una ciudad. Y luego está pues el resto, que es el tópico de siempre, ¿no? Pero que no tiene desperdicio, pues la gran piazza, la biblioteca, el San Marcos, que se lo vea todo lo que pueda. Y luego tiene una cosa que muchos visitantes no conocen y tiene interés, claro. Con la historia que tiene Venecia, en sus tiempos gloriosos, pues tenía, digamos, la mejor armada del Mediterráneo. Y a las afueras, no sé si es en dirección norte-oeste, existe todavía el antiguo puerto de los galeones y de los barcos venecianos y las murallas, los cañones que defendían Y es muy curioso verlo, porque es una Venecia poco conocida. Y luego, pues, que vaya todo lo que pueda. Y que podamos ir todos antes de que se nos hunda. Y muchas gracias de nuevo.
I paid him 20 euros to say that.
Si esa señora quiere volver a Venecia, o cualquiera de los que están aquí, yo le recomiendo que vaya en febrero en las fiestas de carnaval. Eso es nunca más visto en la vida. Lo mejor del mundo.
No está muy de acuerdo, ¿eh?
Y perdón de nuevo, pero usted que conocerá bien el carnaval, creo que estará conmigo, que es una experiencia inigualable. Gracias.
It's an experience. It's an experience. So was hanging.
¿Hay alguna otra pregunta? Solo una
One
más,
last question.
La última.
Who wants to ask the last question?
¿Quién se atreve a cerrar?
Ask a question about Mose. I like this.
A ver, me gustaría saber qué hacen los hijos de Brunetti, que son adolescentes, cómo pasan las tardes, cómo hacen, van con los amigos, que no se mezclen con los turistas, porque yo también soy una forofa de Venecia, pero yo cuando estaba en Venecia me he levantado a las 5 de la mañana para ver a las señoras venecianas hacer la compra y ir con la cesta de la compra al mercado. Y ver las bodas de los venecianos a las 6 de la mañana cuando no hay turistas y pueden casarse a su gusto. Entonces yo pregunto, ¿cómo se lo pasan los chavales de Venecia con los venecianos, sin turistas, teniendo su vida normal de adolescentes normales? Ahí no llegamos.
It's the same as the ordinary teenager in any city in Italy. I think this is a concept that I would like to make very clear, that Venice isn't different. The life in Venice isn't different. People move around in different ways. They take boats or they walk all the time. But life is pretty much the same. They go and they visit their friends. They do their homework together. Maybe some of them play sports, although that's more difficult in Venice because the space is limited. But they live the way teenagers live. Maybe they do drugs, maybe they don't do drugs. The problem seems to be on the increase, but it's not a desperate problem yet in Venice because the market is so small. There's not a lot of money to be made selling in Venice because there are so few teenagers. They do their homework, they go out, talk to their friends, they go and have a coffee, they go home and have dinner, they watch their mothers iron their shirts, and they stay up late watching. I guess they do all these social things, what are they called? Social media things. Since I don't have a telefonino, I cannot speak intelligently about them. Life is possible. Listen, listen. Life is possible without a telefonino.
Sí, sí. Por favor, muy breve, muy breve. Esta es la última.
Yeah, okay, this is the, okay, she's coming back. Okay, this is the last question. Excuse me?
Sí. Do you like rugby? Do you like rugby
ahora mejor. Si te gusta el rugby. En Venecia hay un equipo de rugby, es famoso. Y ahora en Bilbao tenemos rugby. Si te gusta. Porque igual, no sé si, que igual no te gusta. Pero estamos ahora, la ciudad tiene, y estamos invadidos y vamos a disfrutar del rugby. Por eso te decía que igual te gustaba, porque rugby europeo, no norteamericano. ¿Te gusta? No.
Bueno, yo creo que toma nota, pero no sé.
I cannot honestly say that I am much interested in watching adult males chase balls.
Bueno, este es otro debate, ¿eh? creo. Vamos a
Thank you
dejarlo
all
aquí.
very, very much for coming.
Muchas
I had
gracias.
a
Thank
lot
you
of
very
fun.
much. Donna Leon.